Welcome back to Dr. Slump episode reviews with Dr. Slump and Gatchan episode 3, with the first segment being Big Time Slipper Adventure. Let's get right into the first segment and give my thoughts, shall we? So the sun rises in Penguin Village, and then he yawns and brushes his teeth. As always, Mr. Pig announces that the sun is up and morning has come. Very traditional Dr. Slump episode beginnings. The title card pops up. As we said before, the first segment is called Time Slipper Adventure, and we begin at Senbei's house as he yawns and claims that he's all done with a brand new invention that he was working on. So he seems exhausted and he says that it's already morning already, so he's been working on this invention for a long time. He puts a cigarette in his mouth and calls Arale over to check out the invention, and Toriyama and Senbei are pretty much very linked in terms of their personalities. I mean, Senbei could be considered an author surrogate for Toriyama because he likes cigarettes, he loves women, attractive women. So does Toriyama. He says this in several interviews. So him smoking and all of that. So Senbei could be considered an author surrogate. And I did make a Dragon Ball version of, audience surrogates and author surrogates. I did have a series of videos regarding the Dragon Ball author and audience surrogates. I'll leave those in the description below if you want to check those out. But yeah, so Senbei walks into Arale's room to find her sleeping and snoring extremely loudly. Like there's a big, snot bubble, on her nose, which Senbei responds by saying that, robots don't snore at all. She wakes up and we see a scene with Arale putting her head into a washing machine and then popping it back on once it's all clean, which is kind of wacky. It's just Toriyama humor and Toei humor by extension, and I do like this little scene of slice of life in the Norimaki household. I do like that. It adds a bit of character in this segment, and this segment kind of it's okay, but it's really outshined by the second segment that we'll get to later on in the video, but it really gets outshined. So having these bits of comedy in the Norimaki household, it really adds to this overall first segment here. So detailed Dr. Slump, Senbei explains that he has invented the Time Slipper, which allows the user to travel across points in time. Arale confuses Senbei's Time Slipper, an invention made to perform the time slip, which I said is basically time travel. So the Time Slipper performs a time slip, and it's basically time travel. So I'm just going to call it time travel and not time slip, just to, decrease confusion. So Arale confuses Senbei's Time Slipper with an actual slipper that you put on your shoe, causing Senbei to bounce back into his pudgy state and get kind of irritated, as Senbei often does. Little slice of life scenes with Arale and Senbei. I really love the dynamic that these two share, and even, beyond in the anime, I just love these two characters, how they go back and forth, and they have such a great dynamic, both from the manga and anime, and it really, is depicted well here. Anyway, Senbei says in layman's terms that he invented a time machine, essentially, and Arale is questioned on whether she knows what a time machine is, and then she replies that she's seen one in some manga. Then she is asked what one is, and she doesn't know. So, Arale is just, she's a wild card in terms of oh, I know this. Wait, no, I don't. I just love, Arale's character, and, she's kind of clueless a lot of the time. But anyway, Senbei explains that you can go back and forth in time with one, and after this over-the-top and lengthy setup, we finally get to see the Time Slipper in person, and it's an extremely underwhelming looking invention, wouldn't you say? This guy is very small, and, it's kind of efficient, actually, because, this invention, is going 500 years back into the past, but it's he's such a small invention, so it's kind of an efficient invention to go back in time with, very small. So I really do like the design of a Time Slipper, by the way. It does look great in this anime adaptation, and, even the inventions that Senbei makes, the Time Slipper, and of course Arale, and future inventions later on, they have so much personality, which I really like, and that's kind of lost in Dragon Ball. I mean, we do have like cool looking bikes and stuff, but they don't talk like in Dr. Slump, which is kind of missing, but it's also Dragon Ball is a more serious, quote unquote, quote unquote, more serious story, so yeah, I can see why, like, vehicles don't talk. But anyway, however, as Senbei points out, we shouldn't judge a book by its cover after Arale compares the time slipper design to other time machines in manga that she was talking about earlier. Anyway, once Senbei gloats again about his exponential talent and quick-witted nature, as he always does, he loves to bring up how great he is, Arale throws several addition problems his way, like 2 plus 2, 5 plus 3, 9 plus 1, etc. And then Senbei, like, answers him, and, as he's gloating, Raleigh is like, oh, well, let's test your, quick-wittedness. But anyway, she's impressed after all of the answers, are given correctly by Senbei, and then Senbei, as he talks himself up again, stating that he's a human calculator, Arale says, what is 23 plus 12? And Dr. Slump is indeed, well, stumped. So then he says no more time for calculations, and we get more of an explanation of how the time slipper invention functions. So I do like that scene where, he's giving out, she's giving out math problems, and then, like, Arale, like, stumps, like, Dr. Slump. It's 23 plus 12. It's, like, a very simple equation anyway, but it's, like, it's so funny. Like, it's not that much more complicated than, like, 9 plus 1, but it's just funny how he gets it, wrong. Well, he doesn't even get it wrong. He's just like, no more time for calculations. Let's just get on to business. Anyway, Senbei turns the time slipper on, rotates the dial to 500 years back into the past, and pushes the button to set the time destination into the past, and he lets the slipper do its thing. Alternatively, you can pull the button to set it into the future, but Senbei pushes the button down to set the destination into the past. But unfortunately for Senbei, the number he dialed cannot be reached at the moment, and he has to try again later, so he then switches the destination up to 501, the destination number, and then the time slipper complies. As a gift from the slipper, Arale receives a lollipop of all things, which she goes and hits him with. The time slipper, I am assuming, is gender. Excuse me. And in a fourth wall breaking gag, the time slipper announces his time travel trip to the audience, saying, ready to roll, while, like, pointing at the camera. So the time slipper, as I said, it's very personality driven. Like, he has sort of a big sort of personality, and he almost seems like a talk show host, like, are you ready to go back into the past? And I really like that. Like, I love how Senbei's inventions have personalities. And this episode, while this first segment is kind of like, it's very underwhelming compared to the second, I still would like this segment quite a bit. But anyway, the time slipper runs off to get enough speed to go back in time, but he slips. See what I did there? Anyway, he slips up and he ends up leaving Senbei back into the present. So Senbei is in the present, and Arale and time slipper go and end up in Japanese ancient times during the Sengoku period, and they witness a battle between Sakata Kintoki and his army and the warriors of Noko. They both duel, but before too long, Arale joins in by grabbing a tree and just running towards the warriors, and I love that. I love how Arale is just like, can I join? And then just, like, she just picks up a tree of all objects. She doesn't even bolt for the warriors. She picks up a tree first, like a massive tree. Just a great little gag there. But anyway, the episode cuts back into the present with Akane, Taro, and Pisuke bugging Slump about Arale's, whereabouts and going to school, because, it's class time, and they're like, where is she? Senbei refuses to tell her friends the exact whereabouts of Arale because she's like 500 years back into the past, but Akane blackmails him by threatening to tell Midori Yamabuki, who Senbei really fancies, and we see a bit of that more later. The doctor starts to get paranoid about Akane telling the police that she is missing. Then the whole scene, like, in Senbei's mind plays out where he's getting interrogated by the police, which is hilarious. I love seeing Senbei, like, paranoid and, like, He's like awkward, so awkward in this episode because he's trying not to get like arrested and found out, that like Arale is like 500 years into the past, like because obviously he can't tell anyone, but he's also like trying not to be awkward at the same time. It's just funny Senbei humor, man. Like honestly, Senbei is like the best character in Dr. Slump, like by far. And yes, it is titled by him, but like still he's the best character. Anyway, it's nighttime, so it cuts to nighttime, and Arale still hasn't come back from the past. Senbei, who is freaking the hell out, like, where is Arale? He has the idea of actually creating another time slipper and going 500 years back with that to try to find Arale. Just desperate times calls for desperate measures, I guess. And he attempts to find the original blueprints of the time slipper, but unfortunately, he built the machine while reading another diagram accidentally, so he screwed up. He's screwed, basically. And I do like that gag because it kind of comes out of nowhere, because it seems like it's kind of like a red herring in a way, because we assume Senbei is actually going to go back in time with another time slipper, because that seems like a rational plan, pretty extreme plan, but kind of rational at the same time, and that's where I assumed the episode was going to go, but it's just a red herring, and he just, he built the time machine by screwing up building something else. So yeah, like while reading another diagram, accidentally. So he screwed up, the door rattles, and Senbei jumps up thinking that outside is Arale, so he pops up, and instead it's Midori Yamabuki, and as you can probably guess already, Senbei falls head over heels for her again in this scene. Although Midori is only at the Norimaki household because Arale didn't attend school, in which Senbei replies with a shocked expression, this misplaced romantic music also throughout this encounter is hilarious, by the way. But yeah, anyway, Midori explains that Arale's friends from school told her that Senbei was acting goofy, as he was, because Arale is 500 years back into the past, so she went out of her way to check up on him by, going to his home and saying, like, what's going on. Senbei makes up that Arale is just on a trip and assures Midori that she will be back soon. So yeah, that's Senbei's excuse. So I like how Midori sees right through that excuse and can tell Senbei is acting strange. It adds a weird amount of realism into this Dr. Slump world. Like, Midori, like, catching on that, Senbei is acting like a cartoon character, he's acting strange. And yes, I said that Dr. Slump has a bit of realism. I can't believe that either. But, yeah, I said it. Senbei says Arale will be back tomorrow. I mean, no, not tomorrow, after tomorrow. Just in the future. She mentions that Taru and the others said that they felt criminal activity coming from Senbei's demeanor, which, at least in Dragon Ball Super's case, time travel is a direct violation of the galactic law, so they're not entirely wrong. Senbei assures Midori that he wouldn't hurt a fly, and then he proceeds to hurt a fly once one lands on his face, so that's classic. That's like an obvious gag, but it's still kind of funny. And after Senbei is on the verge of tears after Midori threatens that she'll take further action if he doesn't, tell the truth, basically, she leaves, but not after Senbei tries to swindle her way into a dinner date, which is kind of funny. She closes the door, and after she leaves, Senbei goes basically right through the door. So she closes the door after she leaves, and Senbei just goes straight through it. Classic Slump, I must say. In a miraculous turn of events, Arale and Time Slipper return from the past as Senbei is absolutely startled and surprised. They brought back a gift from the past as they saved a man's life, while they were there. Senbei thinks that it might be full of currency and gold coins, but as he opens the box up, there's a white material that explodes all over Senbei. No, not that white material, turning him into an old man. No, you sick, perverted minds, that is not the material that I am talking about. So Senbei turns into an old man after the white material just explodes on him. When Senbei questions, who gave this gift to Arale and the Time Slipper, they explain that it was Urashima Taru. Now, to give a bit of context on who this is, essentially he is a protagonist of a Japanese fairy tale who, in the story, is rewarded for rescuing a turtle. He carries it on his back all the way to the Dragon Palace, and as a reward, he is entertained by the Princess Otaheim. Although he believes that he was only there for a few days when he was getting entertained, when he goes back to his hometown, he finds himself 100 years into the future. As a parting gift from her, He is given a box, but when he opens it, he turns into an old man, much like Senbei did. So that is just a an ancient Japanese folklore reference, and it's just so weird. And it was in the manga version as well, so this is not exclusive to the anime. And yeah, so Japanese history lesson out of the way, let's talk about this first segment. I liked it, even though it does get outshined by the second half, because, it's just more action-packed, I guess. Senbei being paranoid is always funny, and the Arale in the past scenes, even though they were brief, I was expecting, Arale to, I was expecting Arale and Time Slipper to be more into the past in this, segment. I thought these scenes were great too, even though they were quite brief, and Senbei just stole the show in this episode. It kind of like how episode 2 was essentially Arale's episode. Senbei really gets time to shine in this episode, and this segment also in particular. So the second segment is called Whose Egg Is This? And the second segment begins with Senbei frustrated at the fact that everyone is late when he was supposed to be showing off the time slipper today. Arale finally arrives with a pink raccoon costume. Huh, that's a good look. Anyway, Arale in the 90s Dr. Slump anime adaptation in this same episode, the same episode counterpart I should say, she is wearing a Dragon Ball Black Star Dragon Ball Shenron outfit instead of a raccoon costume. But anyway, just a bit of trivia for you. She then notices Pisuke running towards them as he says good morning to the doctor and Arale. Senbei grows frustrated at Arale's rather absurd outfit, thinking that she only put it on just to fuck with him. Anyway, Pisuke explains that Taro can't come because he has a baseball game and Akane's whereabouts is a absolute mystery to him. So, Senbei calls Akane up, and then she is like, I cannot do this, man. Like, I only just got out of bed because, I was up all night studying, and, that's, throws Senbei in a tizzy. Like, he's absolutely annoyed at this point. But, yeah. As I was saying before, Senbei, as Senbei usually does, gets irritated and calls up Akane, who had just woken up. Apparently, she's a huge fan of Dr. Slump and King Kong. And it seems that Dr. Slump is no longer a manga and just a huge-ass novel, as we see in her bedroom, but I digress. Akane picks up and clarifies that she, stayed up too late to study, so she can't make it. So with that said, Arale, Pisuke, and Senbei are off on another time slip today. Senbei gets hold of a net to catch some dinosaurs with, but once he takes a look at what the actual size of a dinosaur is with a book, he kinda shies away from that idea. They all go off into the Stone Age by turning on the time slipper dial to 0 and presses the handle down to make him go back into the past. The time slipper talks to the audience once again and says that today we'll be going back to this time again, back in time. I like this as it shows that even the little devices that Senbei makes have personality. It just adds a bit more to the anime, Even the manga did this, but I'm just saying into the anime specifically, like the device actually talking to the viewer, I like. They're all transported back in time only after the time slipper pulls off some warm-ups, which are really funny. So before they go back into the past, the time slipper is stretching and shit, and I just find that hilarious. Another dinosaur, while they're in the Stone Age, they all notice a dinosaur up into the sky, and Senbei looks like he is shitting himself, like he is very scared. Another dinosaur presents itself, this time on the ground, and Senbei becomes even more scared. Oh, there's also an appearance from Gudon, who is a bull inside of a teacup. Yeah. I was very surprised too when I saw this. But anyway, it seems like while Senbei and Pisuke are discussing which dinosaurs are which, this one is that one, this one is that one. Basically, Pisuke is, explaining that, to Senbei what dinosaurs are which. Arale grabbed one by its tail and dragged it over, to them. Senbei and Pisuke, in turn, hide behind a rock, understandably so, because they don't want to get eaten by a dinosaur. And I like this whole chase scene. She lets go of it and starts charging, it starts charging for Senbei and Pisuke, in which he reminds the doctor that he brought a ray gun before the trip and he should, use it. Senbei shoots the dinosaur with his ray gun, but to no success. However, Arale climbs on top of the dinosaur and begins, sort of riding it in this comedic way, which I kind of like. It's very funny. The dinosaur starts to get more and more pissed at Senbei and Pisuke because of Arale grabbing onto its scales. It starts basically raining down atomic-like breath, energy from its mouth while the pair are running away, very much like Godzilla. It reminds me of Godzilla film, but we'll get to that later, more Godzilla references. Senbei finally finds some cover to hide under and screams at Arale for almost getting them killed. When Senbei tells Pisuke that they are going back, he wasn't talking to Pisuke at all, and in fact some sort of ancestor of him in a caveman getup. We see a caveman variant of Slump himself also, which shocks the hell out of him, and it kind of shocks the audience at the same time, because it's like, whoa, what the hell? Arale observes the caveman Pisuke as he's trying to start a fire with sticks and a log. Senbei brings out a lighter and starts flaunting it at the caveman. Then Senbei hands over the lighter to the caveman Pisuke, the caveman version of Pisuke, and after a few goes at it, he starts the fire, in which the doctor says keep it as a gift. As the sun is about to set in the Stone Age period, Senbei, Pisuke, and Arale are ready to go back into their present time. The doctor questions where Arale is before they, start to get out of here, and it turns out that she was given a pink egg, and when they get back into the present, the pink egg hatches a brand new character called Gatchan, one of the supporting characters throughout Dr. Slump. Gatchan, as we get to later on in the anime, is an angel sent by God himself to prevent the development of the Earth's civilization, as other races typically fought and destructed on their own. So, that's why Gatchan was sent. That is explained much further on in the Dr. Slump series, however, I believe in volume 17 of the manga, so very, later on. So what's funny is, before this egg cracks, Senbei has a detailed face on once again, and is concerned by, what is about to hatch from this egg. Flashes of Godzilla, King Ghidorah, and Gamera appear on screen as he is scared of, what will be unleashed from this egg and starts, destroying the city, basically. So he just imagines that King Ghidorah or Godzilla or Gamera will destroy the city once this egg hatches, because, Godzilla might hatch from the egg. Just one of Senbei's, concerns throughout this episode. One of many. This is interesting. This Godzilla little thought is interesting because it is eventually adopted into the Norimaki family, Gatchan is, and the name Gatchan itself is short for Godzilla or Gajira, combining both Godzilla and Gamera's names together. The final moments of Dr. Slump Episode 3's second segment consists of Arale and Senbei taking care of Gatchan as he needs to be taken care of because, Gatchan, he's a baby. So Dr. Slump Episode 3 was very funny, and it could have been just one long episode, but they decided to split it up into two segments, which I kind of understand why, because the second segment is much more action-packed than the first, but it could have been one episode. Great gags, very comical, as always, for Dr. Slump. Any criticisms for this episode? I mean, this first segment could have been a little bit quicker paced, but the second segment really picks it up and is pretty action-packed and honestly very funny, much funnier than the first segment. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. Please make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.